Welcome to Foundation Friday. The dedication and covenant of silent unity was signed on December 7th, 1892 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, founders of the Unity movement. It is unlikely when they signed this covenant that they had any idea how far-reaching unity would be as it evolved into the church we know and love today. We invite you to join us as we explore and share some of the original ideas, teachings, and writings of the men and women who created the foundation of the Unity Church.
Hi there. Thank you for joining us today for our Foundation Friday program. This is our time to kind of look back in time to the teachers and ministers who really helped found and shape the Unity movement. Today, we are once again enjoying the works of Reverend Eric Butterworth. Mr. Butterworth was very prolific. He wrote many, many books. He had his own church, and he also had a radio show. Today's transcript is the first of the transcripts from that radio show called Eric Butterworth Speaks. And this is his transcript on concerning the devil. Before I jump in, if you aren't familiar with Unity, the Unity movement has kind of a unique experience on the devil and evil, believing that God is good and God is in all things. So, how does that balance out with the idea of evil in the world and the devil? We will turn to Eric Butterworth for his kind of interesting language on this topic. So bear with me, and I hope you enjoy this essay concerning the devil. I am always grateful to receive letters from listeners, especially those who mention areas you would like me to discuss. And I have a couple of letters here today that seem to fall right into this category. One listener is very concerned about explaining to a grandson what Jesus means when he talks of hellfire. Another letter queries about the devil. This is a very important subject, especially in our time when there has been quite a bit of concern over Satanism. In the gospel story, the words devil and demon have been totally misunderstood. The Aramaic words shida and shidana are colloquially used to refer to people who have queer ideas and talk too much. They refer to anyone whose actions are not approved. So when the phrase cast out demons is used, it refers only to healing the mentally unbalanced or insane. In most cases, actual sanity was not involved, but only someone who carried around a torch of anger or bitterness or hatred or even fear. This essentially is what the term devil means figuratively throughout the Gospels. Let us look at it allegorically. A caterpillar crawled through the grass and looking up saw a gaily colored butterfly wafting on the breeze. He said to himself, "One day I'm going to have wings like that." It was a totally impossible dream, but he kept on dreaming it. One day the caterpillar began to experience strange sensations. His whole being was ravaged with pain. He was tormented in body and soul and was enshrouded in a cocoon. He suffered a series of convulsions worse than death itself. He wondered what he had done to warrant the pain and if he was doomed to a life of pain and limitation. Suddenly, the shroud began to break up, and miracle of miracles, the caterpillar had wings. Actually, this is an allegory from real life, and it happens to people as well as to insects. Consider, for instance, the story of Job, a pious, prosperous man who lived a good life, but he had divine discontent, and he began to experience a spiritual hunger which changed him from a mere believer to an active seeker. Then began a series of troubles that, figuratively speaking, led Job into the very bowels of hell. In one of these states, Satan became a harassing power. Satan deviled him constantly and painfully. Through all his tragic experiences, Job tried to see and understand God. But of course, God seemed very inadequate and unjust. He was even led to curse God. But through all of his trials, there was something in Job working that he was not aware of and could not sense. In time, he came to realize that there is a spirit in man and that inspiration of the Almighty giveth him understanding. He began to see his troubles through God rather than God through his troubles. He came to see and sense an orderly universe. He discovered that the greatest need was not to set things right, but to see them rightly. So finally, Job let go of Job. He discovered that the Satan that had possessed him was simply the resistance within his own growth experience, which concealed his understanding. Seeing with spiritual insight, Job was now free. And we are told that the later stages of his life were even greater than the first. How often is this experience of Job repeated in life, even in the life of Jesus? We have been taught that Jesus was very God, a divine person, absolved of sin and limitation. But this is not the story of the Gospels. Jesus was not God becoming man, but man becoming God through the disciplined work of mastery. Jesus, too, demonstrated wings, but like a caterpillar, it was not easy. He, too, had to go through the experience of entombment, through the hellfire, as it were. He, too, died in his shroud, and like Job, he had his painful temptations. When Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, and there he was tempted by the devil, the Spirit led him to a place of growth. The temptation evidenced a negative limitation of his own consciousness that still had to be worked out. This wilderness experience is a key to understanding the mission and the message of Jesus. If we accept the traditional concept of a real devil with horns, then we are immersed in a dualistic universe of God and the forces of evil locked in a death combat. We miss the beautiful ideal of the Christ in man. The Aquarian Gospel gives a great insight into the problem of the devil. The only devil from which man must be redeemed is the self, the lower self. If man would find his devil, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the Savior, love, will be exalted to the throne of power. The devil and the burning fire are both the works of man, and none can put the fires out and dissipate the evil but the man who made them both. Now, this is important, you see. Jesus, like Job, was struggling with the human self. Of course, Jesus was on a very high plane of consciousness, and yet the process was still the same. Whenever one commits himself to growth, there is a force of inertia that sets in. A tug of human consciousness exists to continue in former ways. This is what temptation is, the strong pull of the human fighting the change of direction, resisting the very crystallis that is producing the wings of the spirit. In a sense, in the wilderness, the human self of Jesus was saying, look, be smart. You can be the ruler of the world. You can have riches exceeding Solomon. You could be the master of the elements and work wonders in the world. But Jesus demonstrated his true mastery by saying, get thee hence, get thee behind me. With his extra sense, Jesus knew that his commitment to the path of mastery would have to lead him through his own furnace of affliction, his own hell of fire. He knew that to let Christ out, the human man must die. It was a transcendent vision that few can understand. So, with the striking clarity, Jesus saw both sides of the coin at the same time. If you examine coins of American money, you will notice that there are two very different sides with two very different meanings. One side of the coin will say how much the coin is worth, delineating its material limitations. But on the other side of the coin are the words, "In God we trust," showing the idea of limitlessness. The same coin can be a symbol of limitlessness or limitation, depending on how you see it. Now, this is very important, you see. The devil, which we remember is the creation of man's own consciousness, departs. The tempter, which is the symbol of a painful growth process, a process of growth that passes on and is defeated. The first important milestone on the way to the birth of the Christ is past. The devil served its own purpose as a crossroads or a crisis of a decision, and then he moves on. In other words, he is through. The devil is seeing things from the wrong side, seeing money as limitation, seeing living as aging, seeing relationships as conflicts. The devil becomes a force to contend with when we resist and fight life's changes because we do not understand them. We desperately try to set things right, while the need is to see them rightly from the right side of the coin. We need to see in God we trust to know that the devil has passed. Now, I know this idea of the devil has plagued man from the beginning of time, and it is difficult for man in human consciousness to understand life as a whole. Man has tried to understand God and the universe through his experiences rather than trying to understand his experiences through a changeless understanding of God. Only in the minds of a few teachers has the concept of oneness been clear, has the consciousness of the cosmic whole that begins with God as the one presence and the one power been truly understood. Jesus gives us a key when he says, agree with your adversary quickly. The adversary is the adverse reaction to your own mind. When problems hang on, it's because consciously or subconsciously there is a holding on to them in bitterness. Jesus doesn't suggest that you give in to the negative forces, but that you deny them of the only power they have, the power of your limited thoughts. Remember, the devil is the work of man, and no one can dissipate the evil one but the one who made it, who is you, your own thoughts. So let it go. Agree with your adversary. Turn your back on it and give thanks to the unfolding process of good in your life. Know that God is all there is, that there is no force of evil, no personality of evil, no devil except the dwelling work of your own negative thoughts and beliefs. Okay, so that was Eric Butterworth's essay number 1 concerning the devil. And what I got out of that, reading out of that whole article, is the devil, that evil, the hell, is a creation of our own negative thoughts, of our own bad thinking habits. That once we realize it's within us and not without us and make peace with it, it absolutely dissipates and we are able to embrace the divine in all that is. What a wonderful knowing. What a wonderful thought. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please comment, like, share it, whatever your heart desires. We create these videos for you, and you are free to share them. Please, if you haven't subscribed, do so now. But before we go, there's one more thing. Please know you matter. You are sacred, and you are so, so very loved. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.